What were some of your biggest question marks or biggest fears before you left to start your own business?
That these people who don't think I'm going to succeed are going to be right.
What are you the most proud of so far this summer?
The reason I did summer sales was because I was broke.
Who's an entrepreneur or an inspiration to you?
My dad's an entrepreneur, Les Brown.
What if you could shadow an entrepreneur or a CEO, somebody in the business world right now, who would you shadow?
Has a successful door-to-door sales company. I would love to shadow Donald Trump for a day.
What's kind of going through your mind in terms of getting you to the next level?
Yeah, one of my favorite books of all time is 10x is easier than 2x.
How have you implemented leverage in your daily roles as well as in your business?
Trying to teach the people around me everything that I know.
What's your goal the average sales rep takes home?
The goal has always been $100,000.
Welcome back to the Meet McKay Show. I'm starting this off letting you guys know this is probably one of my favorite episodes that I've ever filmed. I've spoken to a lot of people who have already made it or quote unquote successful already. This conversation with Josh is one of the most inspirational podcasts that I think I've had on this channel. It's one of my favorites because it's actually talking to somebody that's in the grind, in the moment, and we get to hear what it's like in the heat of the fire of startups, of business, and everything like that. So if you are thinking about starting a business, if you have any entrepreneurial fire in you, highly recommend listening all the way to the end for this one. You won't regret it, I promise. If you haven't yet, consider joining the Meet McKay Executive Club, where you get daily inspirational emails from me and stories from others around me about how to become a more successful business person, entrepreneur, or just more hopefully a better person in general. If you haven't yet, consider subscribing, and let's start the podcast. Welcome back to the Meet McKay Show. Today we have a legend in the house with us, one of my very best friends, Josh Brown. Josh is killing it right now in Texas. I'm going to let Josh introduce a little bit of what he's up to, but Josh has been a close friend of mine since high school. To give a little bit more background, I actually won a state championship. I actually won 2 different state championships with Josh, one in football, one in volleyball. So having Josh next to me in the latter years of my teenage years was a super big blessing. He taught me a lot about winning, taught me a lot about having a championship mindset. And now going into business, we've been able to rub shoulders and teach each other unique business lessons that it's really cool learning things alongside one of your peers. So Josh has been one of those people that I always want to have close to me. If I have a question about something, I'm calling Josh. And I just love to see that he's killing it out there. So, Josh, thank you so much for coming on. I'm
Dude, of
glad
course,
that
I'm
we're
excited
able
to
to
be
do
here.
this.
This is fun, dude. This is cool.
So, what are you up to? What's going on in Texas? Tell me, like, the background, like, from your last time doing summer sales, because the last time doing pest control and what you're doing now. Take me through that transition.
Yeah, man. So that's a really good question. It's kind of a long one, but I'll share it with you. So I did two years of selling pest control door to door summer sales. Went super good. I had 2 really successful summers. Made a lot more money than I ever thought I'd make selling door to door. And I learned a lot from the people and the leaders that were surrounding me. And then I came off last summer. I serviced roughly a little over 600 pest accounts, which is a really good second summer. I was going to try and hit 1,000 this third summer. Was liking it. I had a lot of recruits, but I kind of just had this feeling like, hey, I'm almost there, but there's something wrong about this. I need to do something else. And it wasn't the company. I was with a great company, surrounded by great people. And I love and respect a lot of the people and people I was around over at my last pest control company. But I just kind of felt like there was something else that I was supposed to be doing. Whether that was the Holy Ghost or that was just me wanting to do something else, I'm not really quite so sure. But I had that feeling ever since the summer ended. From September to January, I had that nagging feeling, but I didn't really want to show it because I was making a lot of money and I was successful, and I was around that same time, so I was just kind of going through the motions, planning on going out doing a third summer for pest control sales, but in January, so about 5-6 months ago, I was kind of like started to feel like, hey, I kind of want to start my own like door-to-door sales company. It's kind of talking to some of my friends, like, hey, dude, maybe I'll start like a solar company. I didn't really want to start a pest control company. I just feel like there's already so much competition there, and I wasn't really too passionate about it. Even though there's nothing wrong with starting a pest control company. And And around that same time, my younger brother Zach was selling like window washing services door to door down in Arizona. Um, and he was really successful with it. He was just doing it for fun. I had a window washing company in high school, and then he was doing really good at it. And then my cousin Brandon kind of went out with him for a few days, and they have zero sales training. For anybody that knows door to door sales, it's thousands of thousands of thousands of hours of sales training, and they had none of it. They're just going knocking on doors and asking, "Hey, do you want us to wash your windows?" And they're being really successful with it. More than rookies ever do with pest or with solar. And I was kind of like, there's no way, like this is a real thing. And so I go down to Arizona for a week back in January, just like, hey, I'm just gonna test this thing out, see what it's about. And at that time I had no interest I mean, I kind of had the nagging still to like do something else with my life, but I wasn't really thinking, hey, I'm gonna leave pest control, and I'm gonna start. I kind of wanted to do my own thing, but I wasn't really quite so sure yet. And I went out, and in 2 days brought one of my best friends with me, and we killed it with sales. um we had a few other rookies out there in Arizona who never done sales before, and they're all killing it, making really good money. And so it's kind of like, dude, there's a lot of money in this. There's nobody selling window washing services door to door. There's a couple of guys, but there's no big company, with solar and with pest control and with alarms. You got Vivint, you got Active, you got Lumio, you got all these big companies that sell these things door to door, but nobody's really done it for window washing yet. Um, and all these things kind of just added up, and it was just like a light bulb. It was like, hey, dude, like I need to start like a door-to-door sales window washing company. So about five in the middle of January, so 5, 6 months ago, me and my brother, a couple of my other friends, we kind of started this window washing thing. It's been going great. And so we kind of just randomly picked Dallas. It seemed like a good market, lots of money. And so we're like, hey, let's just do this thing in Dallas. Just move there for the summer. Let's just start doing summer sales. So we moved here about 2.5, 3 months ago. Um, well, me and my couple of co-owners, we moved here about 2.5, 3 months ago. Most of our salesmen have been out here for a month and a half, and we've been killing it. We're pushing 600,000 right now in service revenue.
Wow.
We got 10 dudes selling full time, which is pretty unheard of. There's really good money in it, and it's just like a startup. So
Yeah.
that's a very long answer, but that's kind of how all
No,
this came to
dude.
be. That's kind of what we're doing out here. So
I wanted to hear that story. That was I
yeah.
love that story of
So
how you found that opportunity. You were selling pest control. You felt a ceiling, something didn't feel right, whatever that may be, and you
hmm
saw an opportunity. Your brother was selling window washing, and then you went and
yeah,
you started this company out in Dallas, and you kind of just picked Dallas
yeah.
just because you said you kind of picked it at random.
Yeah,
What went
a
to that
few a
decision?
few reasons. Yeah, Arizona's pretty crowded with window washing. So is California. And then Dallas just has a lot of like rich people who live here. And so we're like, hey, my brother was getting married to a girl whose family is from out here, and we're like, hey man, let's hit up Dallas. So we heard good things about it. So it's been
Cool.
pretty good sense. So
What was your when you were preparing? Because I remember you and I we went and hung out right before you left, like the day before you guys left to Dallas.
yeah.
What were some of your biggest question marks or biggest fears before you left to start your own business? Because you were literally starting a business from the ground up.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of things. There's always the worry. Hey, it's like me and my three co-owners who are going to go out to Dallas first, and all the other guys are going to come a month later. And we were kind of worried. Hey, what if the other guys just don't show up? They say never mind. So that was a big fear. One of the biggest things I had is I feel like, and not even so much the people that I used to do sales with pest control, but just people around me were kind of watching me. I was gonna be successful in pest. I was gonna make some really good money, more money than I need as somebody being 23 this summer. And I feel like I had a lot of people watching me, just like, what the heck is he doing? Like, why is he doing that? And so my biggest fear was, hey, that these people who don't think I'm going to succeed are going to be right. That was my biggest fear, which is a good fear to have. I kind of, and I was like, I just feared, failing at this. And I feared it so much that it kind of just like, just kind of like my work ethic just kind of kicked in and just worked, 15-hour days, 16-hour days, just nonstop, just at the grind, getting this company set up. And so, um, yeah, there's a lot of fears, but I'd say the biggest one was just, hey man, like what if this thing doesn't work out? What if, and that's the kind of the fear that everybody has with starting a business is, hey, what are those tanks? And, my parents and my grandparents and uncles and aunts and everybody sees that, especially with this is, most of my employees are family members, right? Cousins or relatives, and is like, hey, I don't, I'm kind of doing this for them, and I don't want them to come out, trust me, and to not succeed at this. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I would say my biggest worry,
Yeah, that was great.
the biggest thing that kept me up at night was just worrying whether or not we're going to succeed. If I was just going to be proven wrong.
So you took on, from what I understand, as your friend, you took on a massive amount of risk, right? You were paying for all these Airbnbs. You paid for everything. You paid for everybody to get out there. What did you put into this? And what do you have on the table right now? Before you guys even started knocking doors, what did you put into it in terms of risk?
So, in terms of money, I put in about 30 grand into the company.
Okay.
So it's quite a bit of money. And then signed 2 contracts. I didn't really sign contracts with Airbnbs, but you kind of booked them out for 4 months and you can't really get out of that. And our Airbnbs, we have 2 Airbnbs and they're both roughly 5K a month. So 10K a month.
Wow.
Times 4 for the summer. So that's 40 grand.
Wow.
Plus the 30 grand that I already put in. So as far as financial risk, there was quite a bit there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
that's
especially
honestly,
for somebody,
kudos to
my
you.
age. So
Yeah,
yeah,
kudos
the big
to you.
risk, but the bigger the risk, the bigger reward, and it's just something I believed in. And I think something that a lot of people, RH McKay, don't really, the biggest problem that I think our generation has is we just don't really trust in ourselves and don't really believe in ourselves, and that's kind of big things. And I believed in myself, and I believed in my co-owners, and people were going to come out, and kind of believed in the vision. And what's life without risk? So yeah,
Exactly. So that's an insane amount of risk that you took on. Now walk me through the business model. So you have people that go out and knock, say they get an appointment. What happens after that? How fast you service the appointments? How much on average is your average house? What's the cost you put into your average house? Walk me through the numbers.
yeah. So what we always try and do is we always try and sell contracts to people door to door, meaning like a
Hey, if you guys haven't yet, please consider joining the Meet McKay Executive Club, where I send daily emails. I have not missed a day in over 2 months starting this email journey, where I email my favorite stories, thoughts, experiences working with Meet Kevin, working with sharks like Barbara Corcoran, a lot of amazing people. I take all of the lessons I'm learning and compile them into a daily email that I share with you guys. It's an executive thing, super exclusive. So consider checking out that link. It's totally free. Let's get back to the podcast.
Recurring service, at least twice a year. And the average service is about $300 per service. So on average, each person we sign up is paying about $600 every 12 months. Some people pay $3,000 or $4,000 a year for a service, and they're always in 12-month contracts. So we always try and do. Some of them are one-time service, but for the most part, it's contracts. And so we have a kind of like a team meeting, a team sales meeting with the 10 guys or so every single day at about noon, and then from 1 to 9 p.m. we knock doors. We don't really take any breaks. Kind of give them our pitch door to door, and then we usually try and do the service the day after. So somebody signs up, you sign the contract. We have iPads or phones, and we use an application system that signs them up. That helps us sign them up, and then they sign the contract, and the day after we come by, we do the service. So it's usually pretty quick. Sometimes it's same day. Sometimes, with window washing, people want to push it out to 2 or 3 weeks out, sometimes a month out, but usually it's within the same week. If not, the next day is always the goal. So
very cool.
Yeah.
So you shoot for $600. Do you get that money immediately? When do you get that $600?
So after each service. So each time,
Okay.
let's say it's $300 the first time, $300 the second time. We get $300 tomorrow when we do your service, and then we get another $300 in 6 months. So it comes in in certain periods. So
Got it. Okay. Would you mind saying that one more time? I think my Wi-Fi blipped.
No, it might be my service. I was saying that it's like if I were to sign you up today to get you done tomorrow, you pay $300 tomorrow, and then $300 in 6 months when we do the second service. So that makes sense.
Got it.
And
okay.
so you pay after each service.
So Yeah, so you pay that $300. How much do you pay your reps, and then how much are you like? How much is are you the like? How much is the company left with net profit per service?
Not a ton for the company. It's all about year two, getting these customers to stick on year two. So we pay the sales side. It depends on how much you sell and how much experience you have, but anywhere from 30 to 50%. So roughly half of it goes to the sales side, and then we have 13 technicians right now. About 25% goes to the service side, and then 5% are just random other stuff. Like credit card fees, um, fees for using the app that we use, fees for this or for that, or so not a whole ton. Year one goes back to the company, but it's
Okay,
all about getting that year two money.
got it. So you went out there, you had a bunch of question marks in mind, but they were kind of almost mental questions like, oh, I don't want to fail. I don't want to let my family, my friends down or like have their impression of me
hmm
change. What has been the biggest challenge you've run into since you've been out there? The biggest problem you've had to solve?
I mean, one of my favorite quotes of all time is, I have no problems, just exciting opportunities, but we do have a lot of very exciting opportunities. Um, I think this might not be the hardest challenge we have, but I'd say the thing that we have to work on the most, um, is establishing the right culture and the right vision, right? Not only amongst co-owners or our top salesmen, but amongst everybody, right? From our lowest performing salesman to the highest, to our tech who just started today to the tech who started 3 months ago. The most important thing I feel like with a startup, if you want it to go big, which I feel like everybody starts a company, you want it to go big, which we do. We want it to be a multi-billion-dollar company. That's the goal. Is you kind of have to have the right culture with everything, right? So that means that means if you got to work long hours, you got to work long hours. One thing that I ran a team last summer, pest control, and I love the company, but I was an owner in the company, and so when guys kind of complained about stuff, I was like, oh yeah, whatever. But like with a startup, it's like, hey, dude, don't complain. It's like, hey, you got to work your butt off, and it's not just the owners that have to do that. It's everybody in the company, right? Like a startup isn't very easy, and so the biggest thing is instilling the culture and helping everybody else see the vision. It's like, hey, dude, like we're trying to make this big, and so you got to kind of like put on your big boy pants. And we did that a lot before the summer started, especially when we were like weeding out through sales reps. And a lot of sales reps that I met with before the summer didn't end up coming out, but they would have gone out if I would have done pest this summer, just because I told them, hey, dude, this is going to be way harder than pest. Nothing wrong with pest, but hey, it's going to be tougher because I'm going to push you a lot more, right? If you don't want to work your balls off, you're not going to come out here, right? Like I just don't want you to come out, like, because we want to instill the right culture from the get-go. And our culture we instilled this year is going to help us 5 years down the road, when we're trying to IPO or IPO or sell this thing, or whatever it is culture is everything, especially in a door-to-door sales company. But just with a startup in general, with a company in general, is hey, biggest thing I've learned is there's an old African proverb, and I believe it goes like this: if you want to travel fast, go alone, but if you want to travel far, do it together. And so it's a lot of getting people kind of to see the vision, to see the culture. It's like, hey, don't show up late to meetings. It's not like anybody above me is going to punish you, but it's like, don't do that, because in the culture we don't do that. You know what I mean? Or it's like,
Yeah.
hey, if you I don't know if that makes sense at all, or
Oh
like,
yeah, that was a I actually really that thought proverb is pretty thought provoking. What have
yeah.
you so how have you what are some things that have happened that you've had to like make cultural pivots that you didn't necessarily think you would have had to make? Like what's an example of you setting the tone?
Um, well, there's a few things. Like kind of just like um, one big thing is like, for example, last summer, we do door to door sales, and a lot of people think door to door sales is hard. It's not that hard, but a lot of people think it's the hardest thing ever. And last summer when I ran my team, if somebody answered the door and yelled at the salesman's face, and they were like, you suck, you worthless piece of crap, get out of here. What I would have done last summer, I would have gone, put my arm around the rep and like, hey, you'll get better. And that's kind of that's just naturally what we all do, right? But with this thing this summer, it's been a lot more like somebody yells in your face, like, who cares, bro? Keep on going. You know what I mean? And I've had to change that, and I've had to been really hard on a
Mhm.
lot of our employees. Just a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, we had a rep who was 17, just came out. He's killing it. His name's Jonah, but he came out a couple months ago. Was 17, hadn't even turned 18 yet. He turned 18 over the summer, and his like third day, he's like, Josh, I'm feeling sick. I'm throwing up. You know, the way that I usually would do that as a leader in pest control, or even just like as a missionary, my mission, like, all right, dude, take the day off, whatever. But with this, I was like, all right, cool. You're gonna go out and still work today. If you need to throw up, you can just like find a park or ask, one of the neighbors you can throw up in their house. And so that I would say the biggest thing for me is it's learning to, you know, just push the people around you so hard, because I've always my whole entire life I've pushed myself hard, but I just haven't really had the experience where I've had to like push other people hard. And that's been, that's been the biggest thing I've had to pivot, since the beginning of the, even if I'm still learning. It's like, hey, we're all in this together. This isn't, maybe I'm the owner of the company, but if you're just a sales rep or just a technician, it's like, hey, no, it's like it's time to like roll up your sleeves and like get to work, son. Like there's just no excuses or complaints, and that's just, so that I think that's been the hardest thing for me as far as setting the culture goes, and kind of just changing. Or if a friend of mine does something he's not supposed to do, shows up late to a meeting, goes home 5 minutes before he's supposed to be done knocking, or says something to a customer not supposed to say. I'm used to being the guy. It's like, oh, hey, dude, I totally understand why you said that, but now I'm like, hey, dude, like, don't do that. You got to cut the crap. So I'd say that's been, sorry, that's a very long answer to your question. That's the biggest thing I've had to
No, I
change about
love it.
myself in this summer too. So
Okay. What are you the most proud of so far this summer?
that's an awesome question. So when I first got to answer that in a long way, I keep on giving you long answers, but when I first got on for my mission, the reason I did summer sales was because I was broke, had no money, right? I got on for my mission. My parents were like, hey, you're on your own completely with everything you want to do, which has been a big blessing in my life, because, I really had to learn how to work hard after my mission, as far as like getting my own bread. Um, and so my first 2 years away from the mission, it's kind of been all about me. Hey, how much money can I make? How much can I do? How much can I sell? Not really about my guys. Like, yeah, of course, I want the people to succeed, but it's always been about me. And something I've learned a lot since having co-owners and having family members do this with me and people underneath me is, I want my guys to succeed, and more than myself. I want my guys to make more money than me. And so I would say I'm most proud of the guys out here with me. I'm really proud of, my brother who just got home from his mission. He's doing this thing with me, grinding every day. I'm proud of, my co-owners who are grinding this out too. Some of them are pretty young. I'm proud of, the 17-year-old or 18-year-old kids we have who are just trying this thing. And so I'm most proud of my guys and success that they're having. So
Very cool. What would you say to somebody that's letting fear stop them from taking the risks necessary to level up or to do something that may, or maybe they have the similar thoughts where, man, like I really have this idea, but I don't want to damage my image with my friends or family. How did you overcome that, and what would you recommend to other people or other entrepreneurs, or maybe somebody that's just wanting to maybe take a risk?
yeah, something that, Ed, I might be butchering his name, but Ed Milet, that's his name, right? One of my favorite motivational speakers. I was watching something on him the other day, and he's kind of saying, "Hey, my the thing I want to achieve most in life is to be the person that God wants me to be. The absolute best version. I want, when I get to heaven, to meet the guy I was supposed to be, that God wanted me to be, the guy who reached my full potential, and I'm his identical twin, right?" And so I feel like, it's yeah, there's risk in it, but I I feel like, everybody has the fear of, we all have dreams and goals and things we want to be in life. I feel like the thing you should fear is, if I don't try, what will I end up? If I don't try to do my entrepreneurial thing, I'm going to go to the 9 to 5 job I have every single day for the rest of my life, and I'm going to be 70, not having grown or changed, having, worked the same job my whole entire life. And so I would say first thing is, realize, hey, your fear, and that's something I realized is like your fear should be, what if you just stayed in the same position your whole entire life? That should be what you're fearing the most. And then two other things that um, just kind of quotes, something that I can live by is I feel like you're always so afraid to do something right before you do it, but when you kind of just start doing it and applying yourself, it just kind of goes away. Like, I dropped out of college. You didn't go to college. Everybody around us wants us to be in college, and that was kind of scary. But then once I just dropped out of college and just started applying myself into life and making good money, I was like, yeah, it's not really that scary anymore. I'm not really afraid of it anymore. I'm chasing my dreams and I'm being successful. Um, and then something that Elder Holland says is, if you have a good feeling about something at a certain point in life, then you should do it. You're always going to be afraid of it, or think back on it. But if you had a good feeling about something at one certain point, then that means God wants you to do it. You know, um, and that's kind of how I felt with this. I was afraid to do it, but I also felt good about it. And that was kind of God's way of telling me, hey, this is what you're supposed to be doing right now. This is what you need to be doing. Um, and so and if God wants me to be doing something, then I know I'm going to succeed in it. God wouldn't have like wanted me to do this if I'm going to fail. Okay, maybe
Mhm.
be trying to teach me a lesson or something, but I'd say more often than not, if you feel impressed to do something, then it's not going to fail. If you do it with everything you got. And so that's
Yeah.
that's what I'd say is you're just realize, yeah, it's going to be a scary risk, but the risk of you not doing it is you're just going to end up being some old lazy guy who hasn't really accomplished anything with life. Nothing wrong with those people, but is that really what you wanted to do your whole life? Is that really when you're like a little kid, you're like, oh, I want to like work a 9 to 5 for 40 years and retire and be average, So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a
Thanks for
good
sharing that.
question.
I really enjoyed that. What Who's an entrepreneur or an inspiration to you?
Dude, you're asking all these good questions. Um, I would say there's a lot of people in my life that have inspired me a ton. Um, I think one, I would say my mission president is kind of an entrepreneur business guy. Somebody I looked up to a lot. My dad's an entrepreneur. He's a lawyer. He broke off after being at the same law firm for 20 years. He broke off and started doing his own thing and took that big risk. So I look up to my dad as well. I think there's a lot. There's just so many people on a personal level, but from people that I don't really know personally, people I just look up to. I would say Les Brown is somebody I look up to a lot, and love listening to. I love motivational speakers, and kind of just love his story of kind of coming from nothing and turning it, creating his own life. And another big one is I've been watching The Last Dance, Michael Jordan. I mean, he's not quite an entrepreneur. He kind of is in some way, but
Well,
he kind of
people
just
that choose to be
embodies.
excellent, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I feel
And
like
I'd,
it's
I'd say
excellence at the end
Michael
of the day.
Jordan's a big one. A big one for me is if you ever watched The Last Dance, it's one of the most inspiring things of all time. It's just somebody who refused to be average. Who refused to lose, and that's something I try and be like in everything that I do, whether I'm playing cards with you or I'm playing some sort of game with you, competing against you in something seriously. I'm always going to win. One of my favorite Michael Jordan quotes is that winning has a price, and leadership too has a price. That's just kind of something I try to embody and just understand that there's going to be sacrifices in life. But all the greats, all the people we look up to, Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, and so many others, Kobe Bryant, Aaron Rodgers, all these great guys they have a lot of adversity, right? But they just understand, hey, winning has a price. So
Yeah. Cool. What if you could shadow an entrepreneur or a CEO, somebody in the business world right now, who would you shadow and what are some questions that you would ask them?
um, that's another good question. I think one thing is I'd love to shadow somebody who has a successful door-to-door sales company, which I kind of already have done that, kind of a bit or been around that. Um, and maybe this might be controversial to be on your show, but I would love to shadow Donald Trump for a day, and to kind of see him running, I mean, maybe he's not so active with his business as it was before, but to kind of like watch him, run his multi-billion-dollar business, and then watch him kind of have to like be president, and a lot of people don't like Donald Trump, and that's okay. But like, I would love to kind of like kind of have his mindset as, hey, half of the world out there hates me, but I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? I would love to kind of just like, whether or not you like Donald Trump, I would love to kind of shout him and be like, how can I have that mindset? Like, I don't care if, you know, 80% of, news outlets out there despise me. Like, I'm going to be myself, and like, I'm going to be strongly opinionated in myself. And so I personally, I feel like that'd be awesome to kind of shadow Donald Trump for a day and kind of just have that kind of mindset. Is like, hey, I don't care about all the adversity and all these people that hate me and all these things. Like, I'm going to be myself, And I feel like there's a lot of political leaders out there kind of like that. But one that comes to mind is him, a successful businessman who a lot of people don't like him. So
Yeah. What I like that a lot. I feel like as entrepreneurs and in the business world, we often are solving a lot of problems or looking for answers to specific questions. What's one of the biggest problems you're trying to solve, or one of the biggest questions that's on your mind right now? It's like, man, if I can figure this out, we'll get to the next level or the next step. Or, well, what's kind of going through your mind in terms of getting you to the next level?
um, as far as a company, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, as a company, but more importantly, as a founder.
Yeah, one of my favorite books of all time is 10x is easier than 2x. Um, Basically
Really,
just
I've
a
never heard of that
2x.
book. Who wrote it?
It's a really good. I actually don't even know. It's one of my favorite books, but I don't know who the author is. I'm
Okay,
pretty sure it's
I
written
will
by a
put that
couple
on my
different guys,
list.
but it's a good one. Anyways, in the book, that the author kind of talks a lot about how 2xing your life is basically just working twice as hard, right? And I'm a big believer. Yeah, you got to work hard, but also at the same time, hard work is kind of overrated, right? Comes to a certain point where you got to start working smarter, not harder. And talks about how to 10x in your life, and 10x in yourself is just changing who you are completely. And so, you know, as a founder of this company and owner of this company, we want to 10x it every single year. We want, if we do 2 million this year, we want to do 20 million next year. And there's a lot of ways to do that. You recruit a lot more guys, you have better systems on the service side, you do XYZ. But I feel like the biggest thing is that starts internally, right? You got to look at your weaknesses as a leader and be like, hey, where can I improve? Because once you start to improve as like the owner of something, or the guy of something, everybody around you and everything around you will start to change, right? And so for me, like something I struggle with a ton is just waking up early and on time, right? I hate waking up early so much. Um, but if I wake up early, then that leaves the rest of the day, a few hours before the team meeting to get stuff done, right? To have good health, to go to the gym, to work out, to smooth out all these problems you might have with customers or with employees before the day actually begins. And I know if I wake up earlier, then things will be better with the company, right? But it's like also at the same time, it's like the natural guy inside of me. It's like when the alarm goes off, I'm like, I just don't want to wake up.
Yeah.
I love sleeping in. And so I feel like in order to take the next step as an employer, owner, founder, entrepreneur, it's about changing everything inside you, and then your company will just change with you. People like you will start to come into your company because they'll see somebody they want to be like. Nobody wants to be like, like as an owner, nobody wants to be like the guy who like sleeps in, or the guy who doesn't actually knock the doors too, and so you kind of got to do a lot of things you don't want to do. So
Very cool. Something that I've been thinking a lot about lately is the power of leverage, meaning
mhm.
for how much effort can I put in to get the maximum output possible, and how have you implemented leverage in your daily roles as well as in your business?
I would say is trying to teach the people around me everything that I know, right? For example, I've gotten good at door-to-door sales. I can make a lot of money just doing this company all my own, hiring one technician and just selling all day. I'd make a lot of money. Um, But if I have 10 guys who are at the same level as me or 20 guys at the same level as me, um, doing the same thing, then my company will be 20 times bigger. And so I'd say that the most powerful thing, and especially in a company like this, is we're trying to develop young leaders who will take this far, um, is is teaching the people around me everything that I know, whether it's about sales, whether it's about leadership, whether it's about grit or hitting your goals or whatever it is. Um, is giving them all my knowledge, and kind of just giving them all the motivation that I have, and kind of just like teaching them that, and then them multiplying that. So whereas I can't be in 20 places at once, but I can have 20 guys just like me being in those places. And so I don't know if that
Wow.
answers your question or not. That's what you really
No, that's
if that's
great.
what you were
Yeah,
looking for. But I would say the biggest thing is just spreading knowledge and everything I know to people around me.
that's actually really unique. I like that a lot because a lot of times I think we can be afraid of, oh, if I tell them everything, then they might be better than me or they might be able to do this. But it's like, good. Like I hope they do it
Yeah,
better than me. And I think that
yeah,
that's
honestly,
that's something that
hopefully.
I honestly struggle with. It's like not holding information back, but being willing to be like, yes, let me give you everything. Like, let me teach you everything that you want to know, and just
Hmm.
giving them all the tools that they have. And I think that's something really unique. I texted Josh. I'm like, yo, it's like we usually have a phone call once a month, once every other month or so, and just kind of catch up and see how
Hmm.
each other are doing. I was like, dude, like let's just record it and do a podcast, and just share this. Well, because it's kind of going with what you say. Like the more we teach people what we know, the more useful everybody else around us becomes. And not that we're like necessarily looking to benefit from them, but why not? Like a rising tide lifts all boats, right? Um,
Hmm.
so it's like let's just share what we talk about. And something that I've really kind of come to terms with over the past, it's like a 3 week revelation, if you want to call it epiphany, um, is pay the bills and build something that you'll be proud of in the next 10 years. So don't worry about making an extra $1,000 or a 10,000 bucks or even $100,000 this month or this year. Go build something
Amen.
that you can look back on in 10 years and be like, I'm proud of that. Like I gave up a lot of money early on to be able to build something that hopefully then will make you a lot of money, but more importantly that you're proud of. What's your take on that? And if you want to add anything, I'd love to hear it.
No, I completely agree with that, and that's kind of the story of my life right now. I would have made a lot more money staying where I was than doing this, right? I pay myself $100 a week, and half the time I don't even, I forget to pay myself. Um,
Wow. That's really
so I,
cool.
yeah, in other words, I don't pay myself to do this. I go out, I sell, do a few thousand in revenue every single day. I don't pay myself any of that, right? Put it all back into the company. Whereas if I would have stayed where I was at, I definitely would have made multiple six digits. And my goal is to make $1 million staying where I was at, and that's definitely not going to happen here. And if I were to make $1 million, in profit, what was left to go to me, all of it would be going back to the company anyways. And so I feel like, kind of just exactly what you
That's
said.
super inspiring. I'm gonna cut you off for a second. That is super inspiring. I had no idea. I thought
Yeah, no,
not that I necessarily thought this, but kind of my thought process. Oh, Josh is paying himself, like he's staying afloat, like he's doing well. Like, dude, like you're just living. You're pushing it.
yeah,
Like that's super inspirational. So massive props to you, man. That's a
yeah.
huge.
So
That's some huge respect right there for doing that. Sorry, I
yeah,
keep going.
so no, yeah. So I'm losing a lot of money being out here, and it's not like uh, I don't know if that'd be. I'm financially independent where I don't really need. I've done well the past good enough the past couple of years where I'm fine. On food, rent, gas, whatever it is. But I feel like as long as you believe in what you're doing, you believe in your vision. Your guys believe in the vision. They believe where your company's going. It's okay, and it's kind of just like I was just saying. I as much as I love selling pest control, I feel like everybody around me will make. They'll, I feel like my sales reps make more doing this. I don't, but they do. And so a big part of it is trying to have your guys, the people around you, make good money, right? Making that your number one priority. You're not trying to screw people over. You're not trying to make tons of money off of them. You're not trying to kind of like push them down so that your salary goes up. It's all about your guys, and then of course you need to live, but and I think it's okay to build something you're proud of as long as you believe in the vision. And yeah, like if this thing goes well in 5, 6 years, I'll have made a lot more money than I would have if I would have stayed where I was, you know. But this year, not even close. You know, I'm not even, you know, I'll probably like maybe make $2,000 off a salary this year, you know. So I'm
Wow.
not making any money. So, um, but yeah,
Have you
I
found that
completely agree with
almost
that.
have you found that to be, instead of fighting and trying to drain the company of money, have you found it to be a little freeing where it's like you can just focus all on the company and you're not worried about,
Yeah.
oh, how much can I
Yeah, no,
save?
for
Like,
sure. For sure. Yeah, no, I totally, yeah, it really is. And our company benefits a lot from it, you know, because I don't take a salary, and same with my co-owners, you know, none of us are making money. Um,
wow, that's
and
super,
so,
dude. That is super
yeah,
cool. I had no
yeah.
idea.
So yeah, it's, you know, and it's a good thing, you know, and for me it's a little bit easier, but with some of my, you know, I have three co-owners, and with some of them it's like, dude, I got $30 in the bank account and the business is making $20,000 a day, you know.
Yeah,
Um, and so it's, you know, it's just believing in the vision, you know, and that's the kind of thing we have here in the culture is everybody here believes in the vision, you know. And if you don't believe,
yeah,
if people who don't believe in the vision there, they're not going to come out, they're going to last like a day here, you know, because you
yeah.
don't believe in the vision, you're so. And then that's the thing is, hey, if you're gonna forego your salary or money you'll make now, you just got to find something you believe in and you'll put your all into. So
Wow, that is
yeah.
honestly super inspirational. If you don't mind me asking, what's your goal, the average sales rep takes home?
So the goal has always been $100,000.
Okay.
Not every sales rep realistically will hit that. You know, if all of our sales reps can make at least 40 or 50 grand this summer, you know, that's way more than people usually make doing something like summer sales. It's usually more like 20,000 is probably pretty average, maybe a little even above the average for most companies. And so if all of our guys can double that, you know, 40 or 50 grand, then that would be awesome. But, you know, the goal is, you know, I want all my guys to make $100,000 this summer. So it, and some of them are only doing half summer, so it's not quite as realistic, but yeah.
Very cool. Josh, that is, I'm quite blown away at the maturity that you're running the company out. I had
Uh,
no idea. I thought very cool. That's super inspirational. So
Appreciate it, man.
I'm grateful that I'm able to talk to you now, because I think in 10 years we're going to do, hopefully it's sooner than 10 years, but in 10 years we'll do another podcast, and hopefully we'll be in a lot of different spots. Hopefully we can be in the same room.
Yeah, for sure.
That I think
Maybe
that'd be
someday.
cool.
For
Maybe someday. So
sure.
you're watching Windows this summer. What month is that season going to end?
So we'll probably end of August, beginning of September is
Okay.
probably
So
when we'll be ending
what's your
things.
what's your game plan for the next 9 months?
Um, so obviously, you know, our goal is to hit 5 million this summer. You know, we're at 600,000, so maybe it's an unrealistic goal. I still believe in it, but you know, if we can at least hit 2 million or 1.5 million, that'd be really good with just having 10 sales reps. Um,
Yeah.
so that's the biggest thing I'm focusing on right now is, hey, let's just try and sell as much as possible, service as much as possible, make our guys and the company as much money as possible this summer. Um, you know, over during the off season, I'll probably go back to Utah. You know, the goal is to go from 10 guys to 100 guys, you know, um, and not just like, you know, random Joes off the street that, you know, are going to last a week in this job, but, you know, finding like studs to come out and do this with us. Um, I feel like that's kind of the biggest game plan is, hey, how can we take our sales group, go from 10 to 100? And then also during the off season is right now we're kind of just focusing on residential. Window washing is, hey, how can we get in the commercial game? How can we do that? And how can we make our service side a lot better, right? So one thing that we've kind of decided is, hey, you know, our original idea is, hey, we're just gonna come out here and we're gonna have awesome sales reps and we're gonna grab like guys on the service side, you know, just off of Craigslist, you know, crazy dudes that, you know, whatever the last 2 weeks and fire and find a new guy. And that's kind of hurt our company a lot. Is like you can't, you know, both sides of the company are important. Like your company's in anything without sales, but also like your sales won't work if you don't have a good service side. Um, and so the number one goal and priority is, hey, let's find, you know, 90 more studs to come out and kill it with us next summer. But also we need to find good guys on the service side who can take our service side to the same level as the sales side. So that means investing a lot of money into it. You know, we got to get more trucks, more equipment. You know, we kind of got to do like recruiting for the service side. We got to be training dudes a ton over the off season. Because, you know, as crazy as the sales side is, it's also crazy, you know, trying to manage 13 technicians in one day who are washing 50 people's houses in one day. Like we do a lot. And so I feel like it's kind of, we kind of need to focus on both sides. And so that's kind of what we're doing during the off season when we're not in the summer, is just finding guys who can take this to the next level. Something, so we actually take care of some pretty cool people. We focus on like upper class, residential window washing. And so like we one of our customers is the former CEO of Taco Bell. His name
Oh,
is
wow.
Greg Reed. You can look him up. Yeah, he's a cool guy. We also take care of the former CFO of Amazon. And he was kind of telling us that something that Jeff Bezos, because he knows Jeff Bezos, on a personal level, of course, is something that they would try and do is they would try and find people who could take Amazon to the next level. Like when Jeff Bezos dies, or when, the guys who are currently at the top of Amazon, when they're gone, they're trying to find leaders to take their company, onto the next level. And so that's kind of the biggest goal this off season. We're gonna try and hit our goals this summer. During we can't hit them, but then after that, it's like, hey, we need to find people who can help us move this along and who can take our company to the next level. Kind of just like I was saying, it's never a one man show. It requires a lot of people. So that's the biggest thing we're gonna be focused on is finding leaders that can take our company to the next level.
Very cool. What if you could go back? I know it's been like you said 5 months since you've started selling, since you've been in Dallas. How many months have you been in Dallas?
No. So we've been in Dallas me and the co-owners have been here for about 2.5 months.
Okay.
We've been really focusing on selling it the past like 8 weeks. So 2 months
Okay.
ago.
So I feel like you've learned a ton in 8 weeks already. If you go back and tell founder Josh something 8 weeks ago, like, hey, you should like, if you could go tell yourself like 8 weeks ago something, what would you tell yourself?
Hey, dude, first off, this thing is going to work. It's like, it's weird, 2 months ago, we had like $500 in the company bank account, right? Now we have well over 6 figures in the company bank account, right? And so it's just kind of like cool how you can like create something and just like see like money just flowing just from like an idea. So first thing is like, hey man, like, this thing's going to work out. And then I kind of learned a lot from last summer. This summer is similar to last summer, because last summer, I led a pest control team of over 20 people. And something that I learned from that is to, another thing that the Michael Jordan says is winning has a price, leadership has a price. And he had to take people to that level of winning, because he wanted them to win too. And so that's something that, I learned a lot from last summer, and something that I implemented 8 weeks ago, but I'm really trying to implement now. And maybe something could just reiterate to myself is, hey, like, if you really love your sales reps and you really want them to succeed this summer, and you really want them to, create financial freedom at a young age, you got to push them, you got to like pull them along when they don't want to be pulled, or you got to like, you really got to set the bar and don't let them go above or below that. And so I kind of already had that mindset coming into the summer, but maybe I went back 8 weeks and talked to myself. It's like, hey, dude, it's gonna work out. And the second thing is just, if you really like the people around you, you want them to succeed, you got to push them. You got to be the bad guy sometimes. And I feel like, something that's, because I have a lot of close friends and family, and like I feel like I kind of turned from like, Josh, they're a cool friend, to like, oh, Josh is the serious guy. Like, he's not the fun guy, and sometimes I'm the fun guy, but in this job, a lot of times I'm the bad guy. I'm the one cracking down on things. I'm the one pushing guys to do stuff they don't want to do. And so that's something I guess I just would have told myself, hey, don't be afraid of that at all. Like, it's good for people. It's good for the company. So,
Wow, that's a very mature thing, because I could have almost heard you say like, hey, ease up a little bit, relax on the guys, just love them. But you're like, no, like, keep going hard, like, keep being tough love.
yeah, for sure.
And I want to phrase this. I know that you're not mean in any way. I know it's all just tough love at the end of the day, because
Yeah,
from how I
sure.
know you. Awesome, Josh. I have a couple more questions to wrap up, but
Go for it.
this phone call, like, I feel like there's so much value in it. Not only for me,
No,
but the reason that I wanted to
me
record
too.
this is just because there's so many people out there that can benefit from what you're saying. And dude, I had no idea that
Appreciate
some of
that.
the
Hopefully, we'll see.
mature things that you've been doing. Okay, so you and I took an entrepreneurship class, our senior year of high school, where
Back in high
we both
school.
competed. We both had the pine cone. We'll save that story. Let's save that story for a different day. But if you got asked to speak to a bunch of high school seniors right now, um, what is a piece of advice that you would tell them? That this is obviously people that have chosen to be in the seat of wanting to run a business at a high level, be entrepreneurs, be founders, be CEOs. What would you tell those young 18-year-olds?
I mean, a lot of stuff. I probably would have, I could talk to them for hours about stuff, and so could you. We both could. But I'd say that, two big things that I've learned about entrepreneurship. A lot of people think entrepreneurship, it's having
Hey, if
some.
you guys haven't yet, please consider joining the Meet McKay Executive Club, where I send daily emails. I have not missed a day in over 2 months, starting this email journey where I email my favorite stories, thoughts, experiences working with Meet Kevin, working with sharks like Barbara Corcoran, a lot of amazing people. I take all of the lessons I'm learning and compile them into a daily email that I share with you guys. It's an executive thing, super exclusive. So consider checking out that link. It's totally free. Let's get back to the
It's
podcast.
having some big idea. It's going to change the world, and sometimes it is. Sometimes like it's all about like having that one idea in your head and just. But I feel like two things that entrepreneurship entails. One, the most important thing in entrepreneurship is you got to be competitive, right? I feel like I used to in high school, and this has kind of changed post mission. A little bit on my mission too. Is in high school, I was kind of like, I don't really know if competition is a good thing. I don't really know if like trying super hard to beat somebody's a good thing. Like for some reason, I had that mindset, but I've quickly learned with entrepreneurship, hey, it's a competition. Like you got to beat out the other guys. You got to beat out the other companies. You got to take what other people are doing and make it better. And so I feel like the biggest one of the one of the things I'd emphasize if I could go back to high school and talk in entrepreneurship classes, hey, being competitive is a really good thing. The most important thing in business, I'd say one of the most important things, not maybe not in life, but is winning is important, right? You got to learn to love to win and hate to lose, and do everything in your power to never lose and to always win, right? Whether that's in sports or dating, it's like, hey, like if like there's like a girl that you want to ask out, and like some other guys gonna wants to ask her out too, it's like, hey bro, you got to win that, and you kind of got to apply that to everything in life. Is winning is so, I don't know if I would want to say important, but like it's important to business, but it's so fun. Like winning is fun, losing sucks, and you just gotta have that mindset. And so you want to be extremely competitive, and just realize that competition is such an important thing. In entrepreneurship, the way that our earth has become so modern so quickly, it's just through competition, right? It's because guys wanted to make money, so they created the light bulb. Guys wanted to make money, so they created Apple. The guys wanted to make money, so they created Microsoft. It was all just competition. That's what drives the economy, is competition, wanting to make more money or wanting to create something new and wanting to kind of gain a monopoly or of a certain industry. The
Very
second
cool.
thing, which we've already talked about, is just taking a risk on yourself, right? Is don't be afraid to take a risk on yourself, and early on too, right? It's a lot easier for me to take this risk on myself. I'm not married yet. I don't have any kids right now. And same thing with you. You've taken big risks on yourself. And just believe in yourself, and don't be afraid of those risks, right? And another one of my favorite quotes is, um, in life you kind of just have to, some people kind of just, pray to God, God, what should I do? Where should I go? And I feel like sometimes in life, you kind of just got to get in the car and start driving, and then God will guide you, right? You kind of just got to start that business, and then you'll kind of understand how to run the business after you start it and after you get going. And that's something I feel like me and you have both learned. You've taken a big risk in yourself. You moved to California, you didn't have any friends or family out there where you're living, and you're like, hey, I just kind of feel good about this. I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. And there's probably a lot of days, a lot of nights where it's like, hey, like this thing isn't working, or this sucks, but it's all about believing yourself, taking the risk, and then understanding sacrifices come with it. Like I haven't had a normal summer. Summer is supposed to be like the time of our lives when we're in college, since I was like 17, because from 18 to 21 on my mission, I've been doing summer sales. And I haven't really had a normal college experience. Stuff you see on TV with people. Same thing with you. Both of us don't have that. We don't have that college social, fun experience. Maybe parts of it we do, but for the most part, while kids our age are out partying and doing stuff, me and you are working, right? And it sucks. Like I'm always like, dude, I could be like out there having a good time, with my boys, but I'm like, Instead, I'm like living in the middle of like Dallas, just like working my butt off for 5-6 months of the year, and the other 6 months I'm just recruiting people and just trying to run a business. Most people our age, bro, they're like, hey, they're like, you know, this weekend they're gonna go party, they're gonna drink, they're gonna have a good time, and they have, you know what I mean. And so is take risk early on in life, and then just be competitive. So sorry that I keep on giving you these
No,
super long
dude,
answers, but
that was so profound, dude. You're spitting fire tonight, man.
not even.
Last
You're asking
question.
good
I
questions.
save this for I save this for all guests. What
Mhm.
advice do you have for me? 23 years old. I feel like I have the world at my fingertips. I have I'm working on these companies that are hopefully going to be multi-billion-dollar companies. I have a podcast on the side
Maybe they will.
that I get to have amazing conversations like we've had tonight. What advice do you have for me?
Dude, I should be asking you that, man. I mean,
No, dude.
you're the one. You're light years ahead of me.
No way.
And so there's not too much advice I can give you. One of the biggest things I would say, keep on doing what you're doing. Something I kind of did a similar thing as your podcast. I didn't do podcasts, but when I first got on for my mission, I asked a professor, hey, what should I be doing to become a successful entrepreneur? Somebody said, hey, start interviewing entrepreneurs. Once a week, meet with somebody who's successful, sit them down, ask them what they did. And so I think this podcasting is huge. Um, Whether or not you get tons of views on it or you don't, stuff that you learn. I mean, I'm your same age, but I know you've had some. You've had some awesome people on this. I've watched some of them. You had what's his name? The former BYU football player. What's that guy's name?
Mitch Matthews.
Yeah, he runs Anthem Sales. He's a big dog. He's a successful guy. I follow him on Instagram and kind of apply a lot of the things. Like he's somebody I look up to. And so I think one thing is I would recommend to you is maybe not so much from you, from the other people you meet on this podcast, is to learn from them. And then I think the second thing is I love how you said you have the world at your fingertips. There's nothing limiting us, right? One of my favorite mentors would always talk about that. There's nothing limiting us. Life is just a game, right? Like there's no reason why you shouldn't be a billionaire in 5 years. The world will tell you it's not possible, but you know what I mean? It's up to you. You know, 99% of people in this world, they live in an ordered world where what they think they can achieve, they will. You have to go to college to get this good of a job, or you have to put in this many years of college to get this kind of a job. That's just one of the biggest examples. Um, I feel like just living in a creative world where it's like, hey, if I want to start a business, I'm going to do it. And there's nothing holding me back, but there's also nothing pushing me, with that, with the businesses you want to be multi-billion dollar businesses, it's all on you, like they could not go anywhere, or they could be multi-billion dollar businesses and beyond, but it's on you, and it's what you decide to create with them, using your imagination, just dreaming it, believing it. And so I would say those are the two biggest things. So I guess it's just keep on doing what you're doing. But yeah,
Thank
that's what
you.
I'd say.
I really appreciate that
Of
a
course,
lot.
bro.
Josh, I've never said this on a podcast, but I think this might be my favorite podcast that I've filmed.
Dude,
I have
no,
enjoyed every
you say
minute
that
of it.
every time. I'm just
I
kidding.
promise you I don't. I promise. I for whatever reason, I feel like I'm seeing Josh in what will be his heroic arch. His like the arc, sorry. Your heroic arc, where your entrepreneurial arc, where I'm seeing you now, and in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, we're gonna have these same conversations. And be like, yeah, man, we just did 100 million rev. We're gonna 10x. We're gonna go for $1 billion this year, right?
Yeah,
And
dude, that's the
so
goal,
it's
man.
just I want to set a tradition where we talk often on here, because I think there's so much that
Let's do it.
we can learn from each other. And thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I know
Appreciate it,
it's
man.
late in
Appreciate the
Texas. You had
invite.
a long day.
So,
If
no,
you guys
long
haven't
enough.
yet, Josh, if people want to follow you on social media, or if they want to come work for you, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, probably just on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Josh Brown 0105. Just DM me.
Cool.
So
Cool. If you guys haven't yet, consider leaving a comment. What did you learn from the podcast? Follow Josh on Instagram. Reach out to him with any questions. Email me if you have any questions. And of course, subscribe, because the bigger the podcast gets, the bigger the best guests we get, just like Josh here. Josh, thank you so much for spending some time with us tonight. And like always, see you next time. Thanks for watching. Dude,
peace.
that was so fun. I
That
hope
was
you guys have enjoyed this episode. If you guys haven't yet, consider subscribing and joining the link down below for the Meet McKay Executive Club. I work really hard on these emails every single day. And hey, go follow Josh on Instagram. He's one of my closest friends. And as you can tell, he's extremely hardworking and knows what he wants, which is super valuable. Like always, see you next time. Thanks for watching.